So we're on to page 12.
Page 12.
Is that correct?
That's correct. I feel like it's been a little bit slower over August in particular, but I feel like that's true for most people in most things. Like, we've been talking a little bit this week just about how for you, business-wise, August is definitely like there's a dog days of summer type of feel where just a lot of people are on vacation. Life is slower. People are a little bit less committed to their routine.
Well, they don't care about looking good for summer anymore, that's for sure.
Summer has passed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, September hits and boom, everybody's back to like a consistent routine and goal setting and a little bit more motivated again.
So with that, let's talk about the back to, in quotation marks, school challenge. But really
okay.
back to life challenge, back to routine type of challenge.
Yeah, back to routine challenge. Well, I think we haven't really named it, but we sort of have dubbed it like a limiting your distractions challenge. But yeah, we can start talking about that because that's going to start on Monday. And this episode will come out this weekend, I suppose. We'll make sure we post it before Monday. But if you listen to page 11, we were sort of brainstorming in that episode, like, how we were going to do it and talked a little bit about why we were going to do this challenge. So you can go back and listen to page 11 for the details on that. But if you're interested in participating, this is sort of, this is nothing you have to sign up for. There's no prize. There's really no accountability or huge commitment other than the accountability to yourself. Like, we're not going to be checking in on you and seeing if you are committing to the details of the challenge. But just to quickly go over again what it would entail, this is really only a week or a 5-day challenge. Some of the work, if you subscribe to our Instagram, could have or should have started over the last couple days. What we sort of suggested is just noticing your behaviors with your phone and social media and online behaviors, I guess.
Noticing the app or apps that you basically are opening on autopilot and wasting many, many minutes or perhaps hours a day just kind of mindlessly scrolling.
Definitely hours for most people.
If that's Instagram for you, if that's Twitter, if that's Facebook, if that's
online gambling,
the news, if that's TikTok, kind of just becoming aware of like, okay, what is my one thing or many things that I am just kind of pissing my life away on, and it's not really doing much good for me.
And also, what do I go to every day? Like, when we were sort of brainstorming some ideas about how we were going to set this up, I think you said it, like, I kind of think you hit the nail on the head with it's, what do I autopilot just open every day? What can I not think of the last day that I didn't open that?
Yeah.
And knowing that, of course, there may be, and there probably is, many apps. It might be Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and online gambling are 4 apps that you open every single day, and you can't remember the last time that you did it.
And you just cycle between those.
Right. Yeah. So in doing this challenge, baby steps. This is more just a challenge of noticing. We're not asking you to, catastrophically change any big behaviors in like a huge way. This is more just to notice, to see what it does for you, and then if you can change those things going forward. But basically what the challenge is going to entail is picking one of those apps. You can pick multiple if you want, but, maybe set yourself up for success and start with one. Isolate that app. And then really this challenge is going to start Sunday night, where at least 60 minutes before you go to bed, you are not going to be opening your phone at all. So limiting your screen time before bed. And then we'll sort of see how that lack of blue light before sleep actually affects your sleep. And then on Monday, the one app or apps that you have selected, you are just not going to open that at all on that day. Try and set yourself up for success, for maybe you just want to turn off the notifications from that app for the day. If you really want to get into it, you could delete the app from your phone for the day, just so you're not inclined to pick it up like mindlessly while you're waiting in line at the grocery store.
Yeah, you can delete it off the home screen if you don't want to,
move it to your third screen or something like that, so it's not right there. And then Tuesday, sure, you want to go on it, do your thing. Although, as you mentioned in the previous episode, you found, having done this now for over a month or 6 weeks or however long you've been doing it, when you don't go on Instagram on Mondays, you've commented on how you don't even really feel so inclined to immediately go on it, like Tuesday morning.
I don't feel like I'm missing a damn thing. Yeah, so it's not like Tuesday, let me see. Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm not that popular. like it's not like I'm getting all these tags and messages and things like that. So it might be different if that was happening, but like I don't feel
if you're an influencer.
I don't feel super inclined to be like, okay, I got to get back on Tuesday. No, it's kind of like a slow drip on like Tuesday and Wednesday. And then maybe when like Thursday or Friday comes around, I start to notice like, oh, okay, I just pissed away 20 minutes scrolling, So why I started doing that is just like, it was that one thing that I was keeping in my blind spot, where it was something that I would check every day for, I don't know, maybe 3 years or something. You know? So it's like, can I start taking one day a week where I don't? And when I refrain from that distraction, when I refrain from meeting my needs through that app, then I have to meet my needs in a better way.
Right.
In a more empowering and productive way, as opposed to just, that little dopamine slot machine is constantly hitting the button more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah, just being curious of if I don't do... First of all, I think the biggest thing I will notice, because I've been, for myself leading up to this, and again, just going back to that little story or analogy of having to give up the sugar before you preach that you should give up sugar to other people. So I haven't taken a full day off Instagram yet. Monday's going to be my full day, just like everybody else who's participating with us. But I have been limiting my screen time before bed, and more specifically before I get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
This is a side tangent. You don't have to subscribe to that for the challenge if you don't want to, but my habit or my blind spot that I've noticed is specifically before I get up after working a night shift, because I'm kind of like groggy and tired and a little bit more slow moving after nights. I'm inclined to get up, use the washroom, brush my teeth, come back into bed, and then scroll through my phone and my emails and Instagram and get all caught up for like 20 or 30 minutes before I get up after a night shift. And that, I was just finding, is not a great habit for me.
No.
But yeah, so just noticing. But this really, the crux of this challenge is just noticing, right? Noticing behaviors, noticing when you reach for it. Are you constantly reaching for your phone to scroll through Instagram when you are having to wait in line for anything more than like 2 seconds because you're bored? Are you doing it when you and your partner are just like sitting on the couch at night and you're quote unquote spending time together, but you're not actually engaging? You're like physically together, but not like emotionally connected, you know? Are you, again, I've mentioned this in the previous episode too, but for me, I also find if I'm having to wait for things while I'm at work, like if I'm waiting to triage, if I'm waiting for somebody to call me back for a consult or something like that, like that's when I was finding I would reach for my phone. So I find I definitely do it as a gap filler out of boredom. So just noticing why you do it, and then noticing what happens if you don't do it. Like, what are you thinking about when you're not doing it? And then to your point, can you fill it with more empowering things? Or can you just not fill it with anything and be present in what's happening around you while you're not doing it?
Yeah. You would hope that you don't, quit Instagram on Monday and then you fill it all up with TikTok
Instead.
Because you'd
Well, my
probably
Instagram was down by 2 hours on Monday, but my TikTok went up by 4 hours.
you'd probably be better off doing the opposite, where you stop TikTok for the day and go to Instagram. That's like drinking a 2-6 of vodka, then going down to a Mickey a day. It's like, okay, that's a good step.
But yeah, it's all just noticing. So just to recap sort of what the challenge will entail. So starting Sunday night, at least 60 minutes before you go to bed, no phone time at all. Sunday, we would encourage you to think about what app or apps you want to isolate to not check on Monday. For the entire day on Monday, you are not going to be opening that app at all. Figure that out as you will. Delete the app, turn off notifications, you do you, whatever you got to do. And then you, of course, can go on it for the rest of the week as you see fit. Maybe you won't want to based on things you observe on Monday. But then the remainder of the challenge will be from Monday to Friday. You're going to continue to not use phone time, like specifically phone screen time, at least 60 minutes before bed. So really this is like a 5 to 6 day challenge, and it's just noticing how you feel before, during, and after.
Mm-hmm. And that morning phone time as well, that's extremely important too.
Sure. I mean, include that in if you want, but just to keep it like easy and really only have 2 or 3 parameters for people, I think we're just going to do no certain app on Monday and then no screen phone time for 60 minutes before bed. But hey, you want to throw in the not for an hour after you get up in the morning as well, or you have to do certain things before you open your phone. Like I have to drink 2 cups of water, get sunlight, and I don't know, whatever else that you include in your morning routine.
Or just get out of bed first.
Yeah.
Because that does set your brain up for failure when you're in bed first thing and you start scrolling. You're already kind of on that path and on that trail. And, if someone puts like a trail of candy, you're like, oh, piece of candy. And then you go on to the next one. Oh, piece of candy. It kind of sets you up onto that path. So can you just, maybe take 5, 10, 30 minutes? You can do all that Huberman stuff. We're not going to get into it right now, but yes, just can you not jump onto that candy path while you're in bed? Because that's going to make you not checking your Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Facebook. It's going to make it harder when you start doing that in bed or when you start checking your phone in bed.
And that analogy is particularly powerful if you're giving up Candy Crush on Monday.
Yeah. And because I think we all, there's something about that boy that we don't like in us when we see other drivers on their phones, but meanwhile we do that as well, so like, get off your fucking phone. And then meanwhile it's like, let me change my song here. Or if you see other people walking down the street and like, oh god, like look at them, just the hunch in their neck, and like we all see that. It's like, well, if you want to make the change, start with yourself, as Jenna fixes her posture. But if you want to see that change, start with yourself. And if you can't isolate that one app and give it up for one day, maybe it's time to consider why.
Right.
Why am I so resistant to this?
This is a challenge. The technology aside, this is really a challenge of just noticing blind spots, noticing behaviors, and being curious about what would happen if you change them. Yeah,
100%. And so there's not going to be accountability, but there's going to be community. Like, we're going to be doing it, and we'd love to hear from you and know that we're all in it together, and we're not going to be posting about shit on Monday, obviously. Because you're going to do Instagram as well?
I'm going to do Instagram. Yeah, that's my most used app by a landslide. So I'm going to be doing no Instagram on Monday.
Yeah, and what I've noticed for myself is instead of opening that app, I fill it up with better things, which a lot of times has been like outdoor walks when I'm when I have 30 minutes between sessions, instead of just parking somewhere and doing stuff on my phone, I go somewhere and just walk around or grab a coffee and go for a walk. And yeah, it does make a huge difference for your mental health and just for your concentration and your focus.
Focus, absolutely.
And you just feel more like yourself. You're not on like the wheel, the mouse wheel. Your brain's not on that. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll post a little bit about that on our Instagram before Monday, of course. But yeah, we did get like a decent amount of engagement back from the little, stories that I posted and poll that I posted with people that are interested. So just know that, we are not going to be checking in on you on Instagram that day, but there are going to be a community of people doing it with you. And then we'd be happy to engage with you after the fact. Like, reach out to us, let us know how you felt, let us know what you chose to isolate, let us know how you do with it, the screen time before bed, how your sleep has been, and we'll create some content for people that do want to reach out to us and share that with the masses after the fact.
Yeah, when you break a pattern, you kind of get to choose where to go from there. You get that fresh coating of snow over those well-groomed paths. If you're on top of a ski hill and you just keep doing that same pattern, keep going down that same slope and that same route every day, and if you stop going down that route, it's like a fresh powder, some nar, some pow, and then you get to choose what you do with that time.
Well, then it lays the ground to create a whole new path if you so choose, right?
Absolutely.
Which is actually kind of a nice segue into what we wanted to talk about today, which is page 12, physical outlets.
Physical outlets.
So why is this a part of the manual?
Well, what are we talking? What is a physical outlet? Is that the holes in the wall where the power comes out of?
Physical outlet meaning physical activities, physical exercise. What this episode isn't going to be is like, all right, guys, you're going to be doing, deadlifts 3 times a week. We're not giving you a prescription of what physical activity you have to do to achieve certain goals, but more just an encouragement of what activities you can do that bring you joy. And when you find an activity that brings you joy, you are way more likely to stick with it and then reap all the not just immediate benefits but lifelong benefits of that, in terms of, sure, there's going to be physical benefits depending on the activity you choose, increased strength, increased flexibility, increased endurance, but also just increased health and longevity.
Yeah, so that outlet that you can move your physical body, that you don't have to talk yourself into doing, that you actually want to do. So that doesn't have to be going to the gym, that doesn't have to be working out, that doesn't have to be running, that doesn't have to be yoga, it doesn't have to be climbing, but just finding what outlet you like to do, so that you can have that for maybe the rest of your life. Maybe that's tennis, maybe that's golf, maybe that's skiing. Because all skiing or snowboarding, if that's like your physical outlet, that can meet all of your needs at a pretty regular, consistent basis. That opens up travel. So you get to travel different parts of the world to go. You get to feel like you're growing and improving in that activity.
Sport.
You can travel with other people. You get connection, and then obviously being good at something and being confident and feeling certain in something, that's going to meet your certainty need.
And provide you with significance if you're quote unquote good at something.
Of course. Being good at something makes you feel special and significant.
Right.
100%. So what we're talking about is, can you find or build upon a physical outlet that allows you to maintain your physical health and like your mental health through that outlet.
Oh yeah.
So for ours, I think it's important to not try to convince people to climb for viability reasons.
So my first question was going to be, what are either have been previously or currently are some of your physical outlets? And I can talk about mine as well, and then we can sort of weave human needs into there and how those meet those needs. So what are some either previously or currently physical outlets that you've enjoyed?
First one was probably hockey. Just as a kid in Oakville, just always wanting to be a goalie since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And
did you ever play any position other than goalie, or were you just groomed into a goalie from the get-go?
No, I've played some games as a forward or defenseman, things like that. But when I was playing defenseman, I would try to I would just be 3 feet in front of the goalie, stopping the puck.
The goalie.
Yeah, I'm making his job harder because he's screening him, and I just my instincts are programmed into me. But no, yeah, it was mostly pretty much just goalie. And obviously, as a 5-year-old, I'm not thinking about a physical outlet and meeting my 6 human needs. None of that stuff. And my parents were kind enough and patient and crazy enough to take me to hockey and pay for hockey and
camps
dedicate all their lives to hockey and stuff. So first one was hockey, and then it started getting to hockey and football, and then it was working out and fitness, and then it was fitness and some beer league hockey, and now it's kind of fitness and climbing.
Jess, I have a couple questions. Now, you've mentioned this to me before, but I do find it, I think there is some truth to it, and I find it kind of fascinating. But why do you think you gravitated towards being a goalie?
Personality.
And what do you mean by that?
Just a lot of it kind of comes down to some of those 6 human needs, where it's are you a more of a connection driven person? Are you a significance driven person? Are you more of the quiet watcher,
observer,
or do you need to be the star of the show, getting all the glory of scoring goals and things like that? So being the second of 2 children, a lot of times the second born will be the more quiet one and the watcher and kind of a little bit of the peacemaker as well. So just having that kind of personality and physically just being good at it right from kind of the get-go. And then also you have your team that kind of relies on you, and if you do a good job, you get 15 to 18 head pats and good job. They all go to you after the game.
Right.
So receiving that love and connection for doing a good job, and then on the other end, if you do a bad job and you let in a bad goal and you get yanked, and the shame that comes with it, that's some trauma. That's probably my worst quote unquote trauma in my life, is some of the times playing for Oakville AAA and letting in shit goals and getting yanked, and then just having to sit on the bench, and that. It's I would assume it's kind of bombing if you're a comedian, where it's I don't want to feel that feeling ever again, so I'm going to do whatever I can to not do that. So yeah, some of it's personality, what needs, your personality type, and maybe you're a connection person. I know that there's this different sports and different positions in that sport that pull harder for, like, they have like a stronger gravitational pull depending on what your driving need is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So hockey growing up, and then you said physical fitness or working out. So by that you mean weight training.
Yeah. Yeah, doing hard stuff at gyms or runs and things like that. And a lot of that would kind of just be like time with myself and like my own head, connecting with myself. A lot of that was like in my depression days, where that's how I would get connection, is just connecting with myself.
Right. And then more recently, rock climbing.
Rock climbing, where we get connection together.
Yeah.
And sometimes
it has not been going well.
But yeah, like that's, for me, that is a big physical outlet that I don't need to talk myself into doing. I want to go, and it is a workout. I do get stronger. It's vertical yoga, you know, where it works, or, you know, vertical twister, where it's like, okay, I have to problem solve. You're doing kind of a little bit of math in your head of where you have to move your hands and your feet. And if you hold your breath, you're screwed, so it forces you to breathe. And there's like immediate growth where I couldn't do this one 45 minutes ago, or I couldn't do this one last week, and now I can do it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that goes the other way as well, where if you take 2 weeks off, you're like, shit, can't do that anymore. My fingers aren't as strong anymore. So that is my outlet right now. That and this is indoor rock climbing. I've never gone outdoor. I don't really have a desire right now to do outdoor.
We're gonna work up to that for you.
I don't have a desire right now to do outdoor, and so it's all indoor stuff. But again, this doesn't have to be your outlet. We're just bringing this topic up to see, maybe you don't have to pull your teeth and force yourself to go to the gym as your only means of like physicality. Maybe there's a lot more different ones, right? You don't have to do shit that you hate. You know, there's much easier ways.
Well, and I think this is something that I know, because of what you do for a living, has been brought up to you several times. And just through my health and fitness journey over the years, I've had friends pick my brain about this as well. I think when you are younger and you're figuring out your own health and fitness and body awareness, and to some extent who you are, there's a big push when we talk about quote unquote working out, where people mentally think that means I gotta go to the gym 5 days a week, and I have to lift this much weight, and I have to go on the elliptical for 45 minutes. And it seems people sort of like stronghold themselves into these very strict routines that's very all or nothing. Like, well, if I don't do this, then I'm a failure for a week. If I didn't hit the gym 4 times, and if I wasn't there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and if I didn't do these very specific exercises, then I'm not healthy, and I'm not fit, and I'm not, I don't know, insert whatever else.
I'm not improving.
I'm not improving.
Yeah.
Like, insert whatever else you think that you should be doing and achieving. And I used to be like that as well, like, which is why it resonates, and this particular topic resonates with me so much. Like, I basically started going to the gym really when I was in first year university. And I very much had the mentality of I have to be there for at least an hour and a half. You know, 30 to 45 minutes of that has to be on the elliptical or walking on an incline on the treadmill. And then I have to go do my ab and adductor machines, and then I have to do bicep curls. And it was all very, now I'm also talking about when I was like 18, 19. I didn't know shit about working out. I hadn't done my CanFit Pro at that point. I was working on my, you know, health degree, so I didn't know a lot about body mechanics. And I was very much doing it for the physical, maintaining a waistline, making sure my pants were like a certain size, making sure I had little
Maintain
bicep muscles that
a
looked
number
good.
on the scale, probably.
Big time maintaining a muscle on the scale.
Number on the scale.
We can get into that in a little bit. And I also had the mentality of, well, if I can't be there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, then I'm just not going at all. What that set me up for, which I learned, over a few years later, is unhealthy, like, mental thoughts and behaviors with physical health, setting up goals that were unrealistic, and like I was doing it for physical aesthetic reasons that really did nothing for my flexibility, longevity,
your health,
actual strength. Like when I think back to some of the workouts that I was doing, I was like, I actually wasn't really gaining any strength in any way.
Just bucketing water out.
Oh, like going out to the bar till 4 a.m., telling myself I had to get up at 7 when I was like still hungover to go to the gym to work out for 2 hours to quote unquote sweat it out, to then just go back to the bar again like the next night, you know? What I've learned now over time and a lot of those times I didn't enjoy it. Like it was like a prison almost, of like you get yourself into these thought patterns of like, well, I have to do this. Now I have found a few different physical outlets that I truly enjoy, and if I don't feel, I love doing deadlifts and squats and like heavy, functional weight movements. But if I have a day now where I'm tired and I'm like, that's not going to feel good today, then I do like some yin stretchy yoga instead, because that's just what serves me better for the day. And I know that doing that will actually make those heavy weight days much better. So like just a lot more in tune with,
because you're craving to go back to it, like you want to go back to it.
Absolutely.
And that being said, it is good to build that skill of forcing yourself to do shit you don't want to do. You want to have that skill built up as well. You don't want to be like, oh well, John and Jenna were saying I should only do things I like and enjoy. It's like, not exactly. Like you can have like kind of your cake and eat it too. You can build up some of that, like, shit, I don't want to do this right now, but do it. And then
balance between like pushing, like knowing when you should push because you need the challenge and you need to get off the couch and you'll feel better for it, and listening to your body on days when you're tired and sore and knowing when to scale back. To answer my own question that I asked you, like my big physical outlets over time, rock climbing as well. That's something that we do together the majority of the time, although we definitely have times where we're doing it solo as well. It gives me confidence because I feel the most strong in my upper body as a female when I'm climbing. What you said definitely resonates with me as well, of like, if I want to go do a workout that's decently challenging, but I don't want to go through the mental gymnastics of like setting up weights and figuring out how I'm going to time my sets and all that, like I know I can just go for an hour and it's going to be fucking hard and I'm going to sweat, but I actually just have to hook myself in, or just have to pick a route on the wall to do and like figure it out. Like there's no, it doesn't feel like a workout.
It's like swimming type of thing. So you just jump in the lake, and then if you don't, you're either going to drown or you're going to swim. And it gives you a workout. It's not much thinking.
Yoga, I mean, that's a huge outlet for me that I find it does so much for me in terms of, never mind the physical outlet, but mental and creative outlet to some extent as well. It grounds me because I find when I'm yoga's a solo activity. Obviously you can do it in group settings.
You can do partner yoga.
You can do partner yoga, although we have never done that, so it's not something I've ever really tried. I've never done acro yoga.
You've done it with one of your gay friends once, where I think you were holding him up with your feet.
That was like on the beach after a couple drinks. That was more for entertainment than I would say a physical outlet. But yeah, I find it really has huge mental benefits more for me, even maybe more so than the physical, because it is a solo sport or activity. I mean, you can do it in group settings and you can do it in front of an instructor. I just since COVID predominantly do it online in our living room by myself. But it's a place where I notice when I'm not being present. I notice when I'm not breathing, because then I can't hold things for as long, and it forces me to come back to just like present movement and breath. Yeah, it's great for breath work. It's great for growth, like kind of like you said with climbing, of like, I couldn't do this route and now I can. Like, I've watched my practice evolve over the years of like, I couldn't do Bakasana crow pose, and now I can go from that into like various other inverted postures, you know, so there's growth there for sure. Yeah, like tons of physical and mental benefits, so that's definitely an outlet. And then we sort of touched on this earlier, but also just the weight training. That was a big growth thing that you helped me with initially, is like, that's a sport or an activity where I feel it takes a long time to hone technique, like to do it well without injury and actually increase the weight that you're lifting in a systematic and safe way requires really good technique. And that's something that now, a few years later, I feel confident to load up the bar with heavy weights without having you there to spot me, or just even having the confidence that I could give it a go safely and try it, even if it does result in like a failed rep, which is actually what I've learned now, what you want, because that's how you get stronger, is by failing at certain weights, you know?
Yeah, depending on, you know, who you ask. There's many trainers who are like, no, never go to failure. And then there's some trainers that are like, yeah, no, you should go to failure every so often.
Sure.
Not every
different ideologies depending on who you ask, like anything.
Of course, yeah. And that science is getting better and better and better, and maybe it'll get figured out, but not quite there yet. So for now, it's taking ownership for yourself and seeing what fills your tanks up. And that can be as easy as the sauna,
right?
You know, like sauna and cold bath, that's a mental outlet, that's a physical outlet. And
there's health benefits to it.
There's insane health benefits to all that stuff, right? So that's a huge reason why those have. It's not just for the health benefits that they've exploded so much. It's because
I want to talk about dopamine and regulating dopamine.
Yeah.
Just with this challenge that we're talking about. Go read some ice bath literature.
Yeah. It's like 2 to 10 times the dopamine and norepinephrine release, I believe, when you expose yourself to cold. But it's not just that science, it's those needs that it's meeting as well.
And persevering through a challenge, like to have to breathe. Like if you're like, I'm setting a timer for 3 minutes and I'm going to sit in 2-degree cold water, like that requires some mental stamina to get through that.
3 degrees. Well, I think it's 34 degrees Fahrenheit,
I have never been able to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. I always Google search the calculator.
Yeah.
My brain does not comprehend what a degree in Celsius to Fahrenheit is.
I think 33 is like 0. So I'm pretty sure at like Othership and places like that, they set it to 34.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
like
within
just,
like 1 to 2 degrees.
I think. But yeah, that's a community. You know, I've made this joke before, and
I'll make it again.
But it's not even really a joke. Where Othership is like just 2 levels away from becoming a sex club.
It really is.
You know?
And we love Othership. Shout out to Othership in Toronto. But you're not wrong. Do you want to expand what you mean by that?
I mean, just the way that it was set up. I know there's another location opening up soon at on Bloor and like Yorkville area, but the current location on Spadina in like Adelaide. Yeah, it's just there's no like just like locked door change rooms. You kind of change behind like curtains, and obviously Toronto is usually full of like the best looking people, so everyone there is generally like in their 20s and 30s or early 40s, and like they take care of themselves. They're kind of go-getters, so the girls are wearing like pretty skimpy bathing suits, and the guys are just wearing like their swimming trunks. But it's just like it's marketed as a social club, but it's a social club full of good-looking people in their bathing suits. So that's why
wet.
Wet and hot. And then if you're lucky as the guy, you get cold, and then your penis gets tiny, and that's always good for confidence.
I was speaking with who was it? I believe it was a coworker recently, and they were telling me about how a friend of theirs got asked out to a first date to go to Othership, and I was just like, that's a bold move. Like I mean, I haven't been on a first date in about 12 years, but I just feel like I would not.
Poor bastard that guy was, eh?
I know, right? Loser.
Our first date, I'll tell it after, but yeah.
All right. But yeah, I feel like I would so not be inclined to go to Othership for a first date, but good on that person, whoever it was. I believe it was a friend of a coworker.
I think our first date, you were at Humber College, and we've already been talking through like text for a couple months at that point, because we already had a meeting at a friend's birthday party. But I think our first day, yeah, we went to get some like Tim Hortons coffee, and then went back and watched Simpsons.
Yep, perfect first date.
And then I spent the night.
All right. That's for another episode.
But yeah, so like there's so many different physical outlets, and they can meet all 6 of your needs. And you probably shouldn't limit yourself to just one physical outlet, because as COVID has proven, things can change and shit can get shut down. So it's good to have many, because our climbing gym, as like most gyms, was closed for 4 months at a time or 8 months at a time, and it's like, well, shit, now what do I do for my fitness and my physical outlet and for my mental health? So it's good to have some backups.
And that time for me, it didn't, like I was still consistently doing yoga, but it completely changed the way that I practiced yoga, like dramatically. Up until that point, I was very much a yoga at home's not for me kind of gal. Like I really felt like I thrived in a group environment. First of all, I liked doing hot yoga, which I can't emulate. I mean, I can emulate that on our deck, actually. I do hot yoga on the deck in the middle of the summer, but I can't turn our apartment heat up to like 40 degrees and sweat in there and all of that.
Because the thermostat's in the neighbors.
The thermostat's locked, and it's in our neighbor's house, so I physically can't do it. But no, I just really felt like I needed to have like face-to-face time with an instructor. I liked having people beside me that kept me accountable to keep moving through the practice. I liked the heat aspect of it. I liked connecting with my instructors and the community and the socialization after the fact. And so the idea of doing yoga at home was just not something I was very interested in. And then when my yoga studio shut down, same as our rock climbing gym, for months at a time, because that is such a huge physical outlet for me, and also really, I would say, paramount to my good mental health, I was like, so what am I going to do here? Just not practice yoga? So I started doing it online at home. And now reflecting back on how I used to practice yoga in terms of having to make classes at certain times, like waking up super early from night shifts to take the streetcar downtown to get to that noon class, because that's what I felt like I had to do because I really needed to get that class in, or like rushing home from work and then immediately running out the door to make certain class times. Like I can't fathom doing that at all anymore, or even at that, having to be committed to that 60 or 75-minute class, whereas going back to the, you know, the all or nothing mentality now, if I have a good sleep after a night shift and then I can only squeeze in 30 minutes before I have to leave, it's way easier to press play and press pause and just get in that 30 minutes, as opposed to being like, well, now I can't go today at all because I can't make that class time and I can't leave early, so I'm just not going to do it at all.
Yes, and that is doing it the hard way and thinking there's no other way to do it. And that, I think, it's always, you're always coming up with, like, you know, sometimes it's just the circumstances that presents new possibilities. You know, I know COVID has opened up so much more virtual and online possibilities, right? So,
100%.
So that obviously helps. But even just like recently when we had to go get our blood taken, you know, some shit happened, like trying to get up north, and we're like, oh, we also have to go to Life Labs and get our blood taken, and you know, we're going to go in Toronto on Bloor Street or College or in Etobicoke. But then it's like, well, what if we actually just pick a spot off the DVP in Newmarket, so that way we get out of the traffic and there's Life Labs there, and just you can troubleshoot and choose adapt and choose easier ways, as opposed to it has to be this way. If I'm not doing it the hard way, then I'm not getting the benefit. It's like that's not true. That's not true anymore, especially when it comes to physical outlets.
Absolutely. And then just, I mean, you can comment on this. We've mentioned on here before about how there's a large portion of your clientele that's now over the age of 65. But we've talked in this episode a little bit already about just the evolution of how, for me anyways, how I think about health and fitness and really what your goals are from, I mean, starting in university when I was 18, 19, I thought I had to go for 2 hours a day, and I had to do cardio, and I had to do my little like butt exercises and ab and adductors, to now, you know, if some days I can only get in a 15 to 30 minute workout, that's great for me. And if I can change the workouts that I do based on the day, based on how I'm physically feeling and what being in tune with your body and what it needs. I feel like for myself, I've definitely shifted away from the doing it for aesthetic reasons and doing it more for just, you know, confidence and strength and flexibility, and really for just I want my body to work well for me for as long as it physically can, and just for overall health. Relating that to some of your more elderly clients, I always find it very inspiring, and I feel like I will be and hope to be that person where, like, I just want to, as I age, I just want my body to be healthy enough to do the activities that I enjoy, but also just stay mobile for as long as possible. Like, I don't want to have to use a walker if I don't have to. I want my body to be strong enough to be independent for as long as possible. You know, as my bone density declines as I age, I want to be strong enough where I don't have brittle bones and don't, like, you know, break a bone just from rolling over in bed. That 100% happens. I see that at work frequently. On
an airplane,
yep.
You know, you're on whatever it's called. What's the shitty Flare? And they got
Flare
new pilots, and there's gugoosh.
Yeah.
And then you break a vertebrae in your spine.
Yeah.
That happens.
You know, and so for me, yeah, just how I've changed my view of my physical outlets is, yeah, it doesn't have to be for a certain time parameter. It doesn't have to be for aesthetic goals, but really it's just about functionality long term and being functionally able to do all the things that I want to do over a long period of time, hopefully into my 70s, 80s, 90s.
And the aesthetics come with that.
The aesthetics are, there's no denying.
They're a byproduct of that, of like a consistency and listening to your body and doing hard stuff and doing smart stuff as well. But yeah, and if you want to just be all aesthetics and bodybuilding and like you set goals with that, then
that's a whole other sport all on its own.
Yeah.
That isn't in line with my goals and what I want to achieve from my physical outlets. However, I will say, knowing people, friends, coworkers who have dived a little bit into, you know, bodybuilding or bikini competitions over the years,
Mm-hmm.
that is a disciplined fucking sport. Like I
Mm-hmm.
do have mad respect for the discipline that requires to do those sports, for sure. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, is there anything you want to share about just with some of your more elderly clients, and like, do they talk to you about why they sought out personal training in their 70s or 80s, or
Just to pick up guys.
their third husband died, so they got to get back on the market?
No, most of it is basically just longevity, getting out of pain or limiting future pain, and aging gracefully and healthfully. And yeah, they've just getting into that routine.
People love a routine.
Oh yeah, big time. And God help me if I ever break that routine.
You're supposed to be here at 12 o'clock every Wednesday. It's a candy dish, Ted.
No, just candy. $90. That's Simpsons quotes for some of you. But yeah, most of it is pain reduction and aging healthfully and gracefully. And yeah, maybe they're looking to pick up dudes. I don't know. I don't ask that too often.
Yeah, that's something that needs to just come about naturally,
Yeah.
I feel like.
I don't ask about their dating life too often.
Not too often. But yeah, just with any physical outlet, your goals will change, I think, as you age and as you learn more and as you hone in on activities that do meet all of those needs. But to go back to what you sort of alluded to before, the physicality will probably always be a nice byproduct when you're in a good routine doing something that you enjoy. Even if what you like, another activity I would say that really has been a great outlet for both of us is walking. Go back to page 1, we talked about how the whole idea for this podcast was sort of born out of going for walks together, and both of us, we walk, I would say, at least 3 to 5K, like at least 5 days a week. And we get, physical benefits out of that, connection benefits out of that from doing it together. Honestly, growth benefits from coming up for an idea for a podcast from that. Lots of benefits there as well.
Get some significance by talking about good things.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels
Positive
like,
ideas.
we're building something. And
Absolutely. Now, if you do have a certain aesthetic goal, which again, there is nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's a vain thing to say. It's nice to feel good in your body and confident in how you look. You might have to take on certain activities to meet certain aesthetic goals. So we're not saying that you can just do Tai Chi every day and you're going to be like a super ripped bodybuilder. Of course, if you do have certain aesthetic goals, you do have to take on certain activities to achieve that. But generally speaking, if you're, if walking does it for you and you walk 3 to 4 days a week, and also rock climbing does it for you and you choose to climb 1 to 2 days a week, there's no doubt you are going to see physical aesthetic benefits from doing that.
Yeah. Typically there's ways to make something more enjoyable. And I always use that analogy of a bath. And basically, you can get into a tub full of lukewarm or slightly cold water and just sit there in your own filth. Or you could take a nice hot bubble bath and put on some spa music.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
If walking isn't inherently your thing, but you're like, I know it's good for me and maybe I'll try it out, drive to a nice environment to walk through. You don't have to walk through, just concrete and houses that all look the same if you don't want to. Drive to the lake, set your timer for 35 minutes, do a couple laps around in a park, habit stack it with listening to a podcast such as this one that you enjoy, or listen to an audiobook, or honestly just listen to your favorite band.
Yeah.
And make it as enjoyable for yourself as possible so that you continue to want to do it. The goal, I think, is never force it. Like you said before, yes, there are going to be times where you have to force it. For example, yesterday I just finished my last of 5 shifts in a row. The last 3 were nights. Yesterday, between my 4th and 5th shift, I did not want to work out yesterday, but I knew physically and mentally I would be better for it. And I put on a 40-minute, my yoga fitness class, I call it, Body, with my girl Deanna. It's fucking hard. It's a lot of jumping, a lot of plyometrics, and I didn't super want to do it, but because I know myself, I knew I would feel better for doing it, and I did. So yeah, it's this sort of give and take of knowing when you have to push yourself, knowing when you have to scale back, but make it enjoyable. Like, sometimes you will have to push, but I would say what can you do that most days in a week you're going to enjoy? And that's really our philosophy for most things, is who you are, I think, is based on what you're doing 5 days a week.
What if I go out on just benders 2 days a week? Wouldn't that be me?
No, only if you do it 5 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, a person is what they do and think of all day, right? You know, so yeah, just your habits, what you do in a day, what you do in a week, what you do in a month, that you become that. And you can make things more enjoyable. They don't have to always be enjoyable. You don't have to always be like, yay, I get to do this. You know, even professional athletes, they're probably like, shit, I really don't want to do this today. But
rowers that are like, I really don't want to wake up at 3:30 in this morning and drag my ass to the cold water today. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, like you said, that give and take, the like, okay, I'm going to push myself to do this because I know this is like my only time today to do it, even though I don't want to. But maybe I can make it as enjoyable as possible by putting on a different, not putting on the same music playlist. Maybe I get some variety from a different playlist. Maybe I choose a class I haven't done before.
Maybe I do it outside as opposed to inside.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's kind of what this page is focusing on, is trying out and finding your physical outlets and coming to terms with it doesn't have to fall under the hard or pulling teeth category.
And it shouldn't, hopefully. Hopefully you're getting enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, you know, just, it's like that airport example where some people, when they go to the airport, they need to be stressing about packing and yelling at their spouse and kids about, we haven't even packed yet and we're leaving in 2 days. And, you know, they get to the airport and they're like, oh, the limo's driver's 10 minutes late. And
like, what if your spouse perpetually packs 30
what
minutes
if your spouse interrupts your
go?
Story every time? And then they get to the airport and it's like, I gotta be in this stressed out mode to get to where I need to be and get to the gate and make sure I have everything, because they're in an uncertain place, you know? So I have to be in this kind of frantic, chaotic, stressed out mode
to get it done.
Yeah, it's like, or I could enjoy my time at the airport and chill and read my book and get there early and walk around, and I can enjoy this too. So kind of that how you do anything is how you do everything, obviously, but you can choose how you do these things and how you interact with them and what they do for you 100%.
And be kind to yourself while you do them, and think about why you're doing them. Like, think about why you're picking this activity. Is there an aesthetic component? Is there a flexibility component? Is there just a functional health component? Is there a longevity component? The reality is, it probably is and should be a combination of all of those things. But why are you doing it?
Yeah, so why, and then what needs it meets. And if I would implore you to try to get many things that meet most of your needs, because as you have more and more activities that meet more than 3-4 of those needs, that you're going to be more likely to stick to them. You know, if you have something that meets your variety need, you get the spice of life, a change. It makes you feel powerful and strong and capable. Meets your certainty need, makes you feel special, good at something. You connect with others. You get love from others for being good at something. And then obviously the growth and contribution. There's lots to do with that. In rock climbing, when you help somebody solve a problem on the wall, that's obviously contributing, right? So that's kind of what you're looking for in your outlets, is doing that needs breakdown like we've talked about before. Certainty, variety, connection / love, significance, and then growth and contribution.
It all comes back to the needs, baby. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, maybe this will encourage those of you who are listening to try something new, find your physical outlet, think about why you're taking it on, what needs it meets, and be well, be healthy. And just a reminder that the challenge is going to start on Monday, and we'll post some more on our Instagram about that. And hopefully y'all will join us. And if you don't, we won't know until Tuesday.
That's okay. But you can count on us for not taking a day off. And then maybe you start to stack it. Maybe you start doing, okay, no TikTok and no Instagram, and no Facebook and no news and no Instagram and no TikTok. And then as you start limiting those, you're going to have to meet your needs somehow. So you're probably going to meet them in better ways.
We love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye, y'all.